Now, the US government will appeal a court ruling against the president's executive action to protect millions of illegal immigrants from deportation. A federal judge in Texas has temporarily blocked Barack Obama's decision, saying that he failed to comply with administrative procedures. Sajith Ranithi reports.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
The court ruling prompted dozens of rallies in cities across the US, including Phoenix, LA and Denver.
It's a shame that we are continuing to put this kind of shadow over our communities. Communities that all they want to do is work legally here, pay their taxes, raise their families, and become part of the social fabric of America.
In November, Barack Obama bypassed a gridlocked Congress and announced executive action. He billed it as the biggest shift in immigration policy since 1986. The action would allow nearly 5 million of the estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants in the US to stay without the threat of deportation. It was aimed mainly at helping around 4.5 million people whose children are US citizens or permanent residents. But at the urging of 26 states, US District Judge Andrew Hanen intervened. And the governor of Texas welcomed the decision. Greg Abbott released a statement saying President Obama abdicated his responsibility to uphold the Constitution, and Judge Hanen's decision rightly stops his overreach in its tracks. The president's attempt to bypass the will of the American people was successfully checked today. Many Democrats are frustrated.
It's not in our interest to keep 11 million undocumented individuals in this country living in fear. This affects Latinos, this affects Asian Pacific Islanders, and it affects so many other people in this country.
It was a similar sentiment on the streets of Washington.
It's an injustice what they're doing in saying no. They don't know what it's like to suffer in this country and be illegal when you're trying to work and do well.
What we want, both those of us with children that were born here and those without, we all want at least the permission to feel free and to work.
Immigration is a hot political issue ahead of next year's presidential election. According to the Department of Homeland Security, in 2011, nearly 9 million of the 11 million illegal immigrants were from North America. That includes people from Canada, Mexico and Caribbean nations. In recent years, thousands have fled Guatemala, El Salvador and Honduras, entering the US using human trafficking networks in Mexico. And conservatives say the president's plans were an amnesty for people who broke the law. But Mr. Obama says history and the law are on his side.
This is not the first time where a lower court judge has blocked something or attempted to block something that ultimately was shown to be lawful.
The Attorney General says the immigration debate will ultimately be played out in the courts.
I've always expected that this is a matter that will ultimately be decided by a higher court, if not the Supreme Court, then a federal court of appeals.
Meanwhile, lawyers say the people who've already filed for deportation relief must now decide whether to withdraw their applications and be refunded or continue in the hopes Mr. Obama's plan is ruled legal. Sajith Ranithi, ABC News.